Hello and welcome back again to another book review with me, Isa Deviant, or Isa. So today I have something rather rare or old, I want to say. For those of you who don't know, I am German, so I lived in the States for a while, so I speak both languages, and I read mostly English, but I also read German sometimes, depending what I'm reading. Like if the original is German, I will read it in German, of course, but normally if the original is in English, I'll read it in English. Or whatever language comes closest. For example, for Christmas, I got Crime and Punishment from my mom. Like she gave me that for Christmas. She thought it was a weird gift. I really enjoyed it. So I really wanted to read Dostoevsky for a while. So for me, it was like, oh heck yeah! But I'm going to read that in German because German is closer to Russian than English is to Russian. And German is, for anyone who doesn't know, like a very complicated language with a lot of intricacies. Like we have a lot of very specific words for things. We have words that mean very specific emotions, very specific things that often do not have um, a translation in English. For example, it's not called Crime and Punishment. That's the first thing that I've noticed. Like that's not the title. The title I can't translate because there's no word for it. Basically, in German, it's called Schuld und Sühne, which means more like uh, guilt and retribution. It's not it approximate. It's not an exact translation. It's the approximate translation, which I thought was really interesting because it doesn't mean crime and punishment at all. It basically means guilt. Guilt does not equal crime. You know what I mean? So that's why I wanted to read it in German because I think it's just closer to the original. And I can't read Russian, so I am gonna do it in German. Bringing me back today. So basically, I read a long, long time ago. I was walking in the mall with my friend, and we walked past the bookstore, and of course, I can't resist, so I'm gonna go inside. And I didn't have a lot of money at the time because a teenager didn't have a lot of money, and I saw this pack, a trilogy pack, where you could buy the whole pack for 10 euros. And I'm like, heck yeah, I don't know the author, I don't know the book, I have no clue. It's in German, not my favorite, that's okay. Because I prefer to read in English if I can. Of course, I will read German, but if their English is available, I'm gonna read English. So I'm like, whatever, I'm taking it. Okay? And because if you don't know this about me, I am obsessed with dragons. As a kid already, dragons was like my favorite thing in the world. I have at least 20 figurines, probably more. Whenever I went to like the store and they have like these plastic animals that are really detailed from Scheich. I don't know if they exist anywhere else. Love them. Super expensive. Well, medium expensive, like 15 euros or something, a little more. But they have really great detail, and I have like all kinds of little dragons. Um, this guy got a two-headed dragon right here. Like there's a lot of detail going on in this guy. And I have like different types. I have books about dragons. Like I was obsessed, okay, as a kid, obsessed. So still love them, okay? Don't knock them. Love the dragons. Um, yeah. And I have more. Like I have a bronze one. I have a skeleton one for some reason. I have a wooden one. I love the Korean and Chinese dragons as well, the snaky guys. Love those guys. Have a lot of those as well. Can't reach them right now, too far away. But yeah, I have quite a bit of dragons. So of course, since there was a freaking dragon on the front of the book, I'm like, absolutely, that's mine. I'm gonna take that one. And yeah, it's basically this is what the German title is, Der Schattenbund. Um, in English, it's called The Shadow League by Maggie Furey, and the first book is called The Heart of Muriel. If I'm pronouncing it correctly, so why? And it's basically a four-part book series. But as far as I understood, I could be wrong. Please correct me if I'm wrong. She only wrote the first three parts, and the fourth part was added later, I think. Not sure. Um, and for me, this is high fantasy, right? It's like that's the genre. It's high fantasy. But it has a modern twist to it. Like I thought it was very interesting that there was quite a bit of modernism in a book that was written 1998. 1998 was the first book, 2001 was the second, and if I'm not mistaken, 2003 was the third. And I thought it ended with the third, but apparently it's the fourth book. I haven't read it. I need to get the fourth book. What the heck? And I need to read the first three again though because it's been like literally I want to say 10 years since I read these for sure. They're in excellent condition for that though. I do really like the cover. I saw that there are quite a few different covers online. Like you can get all kinds of different versions of this. And yeah, see, Weltbild that doesn't even exist anymore. But yeah, it was a cheap bookstore basically. It was a little Christian funded kind of, which I wasn't a huge fan of because I don't want to support religion of any kind. Um, I'm atheist, in case that wasn't clear. But um, I respect religion. Everyone can believe what they want. I think it's really good to have. I think I understand why it exists and why it makes sense to exist, but at the same time, don't want to put money into that. But whatever. Basically, I got the books anyway because dragons, hello, and I already read the Aragon series. I can do a video on those as well. Um, by Christopher Paolini, if I remember correctly. They're standing back there somewhere. Yes, and basically those books were, I think the Aragon ones were the first dragon books that I read. I started off reading, like I always read a little bit, but as a kid, I think the book that really skyrocketed my reading interest was Harry Potter. Classic, like I was 11, Harry Potter was 11, freaking loved it. So was for me, always loved magic and fantasy and sci-fi. Like I loved any kind of universe that was more interesting than ours. Uh, I don't have the same opinion today. Um, I do think it's a tragedy we don't have dragons. That's super sad. And I do love a very good Renaissance fair. Let's, oh, so good. We used to have a dress. I mean, it was a teenager, doesn't fit me anymore, but like I used to have a dress that I would go to the fairs with. Fantastic. Recommend 10 out of 10. Am I a nerd? I don't care. It was a lot of fun. Could recommend for sure. Basically, so the three books, The Shadow League in English, Schattenbund in German, was surprisingly good. Like, I did not expect anything from a trilogy that literally only cost 10 euros because normally a book on its own costs like 25. So all of them together, especially their hardcover, see? Like, it's not even, well, how is this only 10 euros? I don't know. Inflation hadn't hit us at that time yet. Yeah. But basically, I read these three books in one go because they were just so good. Like I think the first one has, let's see, has like five, just shy of 500 pages. Not 502, okay. And it's written pretty small. Like it's very tiny written, so it's maybe more set pages depending on how big the font size goes. But I was a huge fan. I actually was surprised. Like I didn't know the author, I didn't know the books, I've never heard of them. They were not very popular. I think they're still not popular because sadly Maggie passed away. Mrs. Furey passed away in 2016, so she's sadly not with us anymore. But she wrote a bunch of books actually. She wrote two different trilogies or tetra trilogies, whatever. The four of them. And I'm missing the first one of this one, which is tragic because I researched that before the video and I'm like, what? I need to read that, but I need to read them again because it's been so long. But I never threw the books away because, first of all, I don't throw away books because that is just blasphemy. Not religious, I said that 2 minutes ago. Blasphemy anyway, because no. And yeah, and the books were surprisingly good. There are a lot of different characters in these books. Like you have a female main character, that's this lady here. I forgot all the names because they are all fantasy names, like the first few pages, like in any fantasy book, you're like, who the hell is Teflon? Like, I don't know. It's a joke. I know what Teflon is, okay? Just And the main character of the book, I would argue, is this lady right here, whose name, of course, I forgot, and her dragon. And I was like, oh, damn, a female dragon rider? Absolutely, gimme, immediately. And Maggie Furey started writing books in 1994. She was born 1955, and she was a teacher. And she's from England, and she moved to Ireland, though, where she also passed away in 2016. And she wrote two tetralogies. I can't pronounce it. Okay. Um, it's four books, a four row of books, basically. And she wrote two of those. And so eight books, and then like a few single books. I need to read the rest because these were really good, so I really want to read the rest of her books, actually. And this is old school fantasy. So if you are not into that, if you want something fast paced, if you want something more modern, this is not for you. Um, However, I do have to say I was, I don't know, 16 maybe, 15 when I read these, and I was captivated. So I would definitely recommend them. I will read them again actually because they're just really good. And I'll read them again in German. Like I'm not gonna buy these books in English because I started in German. I have to finish it in German because I have the same with the Bartimaeus books. Got the first one as a gift in German, of course, because in Germany you give German books. And I was a little disappointed because I'm like, oh, it's a German. Okay, well, I'll read it anyway. And the funny thing is, I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, okay? But the German uh, translation of Bartimaeus is way funnier than the English version because I read the English version later, but I stopped after one book because I just could not be bothered to read the rest in English. It's because Bartimaeus is like a very snappy and sarcastic character, and he's hilarious. Oh my goodness. Bartimaeus's type of humor was the type of humor I aspired to have. Like it was so funny, he was so smart, so witty, so quick, but had a good heart, even though he did always do what was in his best interest. There are moments where he decides for somebody else because he does have a heart at the end of the day. And in German it's just so funny. I'm literally laughing all the time with Bartimaeus, and in English it just wasn't that funny. It didn't kick that well, which was a bummer because I really liked books. Can recommend as well. I'm gonna do that in a different video because this time it's about these guys, alright? So basically, after 12 minutes of watching this video and me babbling, I'm so sorry for that. Let's get to the book. So basically, in this trilogy, it's the main character is her with her dragon, and there are a few main characters actually. Like there is also another woman who I can't remember, who is basically she has a very tragic story. She basically has a younger sister, and her younger sister got sick and died very early, and they're both orphans, and they don't have any parents anymore, obviously because they're orphans. I just said that. And she basically worked at a brothel at the very tender age of like 11 or 12 to finance the funeral for her sister, and then just kept working there because she needed the money, and there was literally no other way for her because she couldn't go to school, she didn't have parents, she didn't have any guardians. That was the only place where she actually got board and food for work, and it was easy money, right? Because of course they took you. You're an untouched, young, beautiful, pristine woman goes like hotcakes, right? Because it's sick. But still, sorry about that, but that is what happens in the book. And I forgot her name as well because all of the names are made up and they're all fantasy names and I cannot remember them for the life of me. I'm happy I can remember the Lord of the Rings names. Okay, like I also love Lord of the Rings. Also, fantasy is pretty similar. It might be a stretch, but the names are similar in the sense of being made up, right? Like they don't sound like Legolas and stuff, but it is definitely made up and you're like, what? What's their name? Kazile? I don't know. And and basically so she is one of the brothel worker girl is one of the main characters. There is also the dragon rider lady who's also a keeper of knowledge, and as is the dragon, because of course they get really, really old, and they can generationally give knowledge, I think. And it's about a very interesting world. Like the way the world is constructed is unlike any other I've known up until that point. It's basically a huge fantasy world that is separated by curtains of energy. Like there's walls at the end of all of the kingdoms, and they section off other parts of other kingdoms. Completely different world. There's completely other stuff going there, different religions, different beliefs, different, completely different cultures. They have nothing to do with each other. They don't even know of the existence of each other, right? Because they think that's the whole world. Within these white energy walls, there is nothing beyond, and they are basically in this kingdom, and that's all there is to the world. There's nothing else. And basically, the only people who know that that's not true, but that's actually a really big world, and lots of pieces are sectioned off by these curtain walls, is her. Like her and the other keepers of knowledge, and there's only like a handful of them. And she also comes with her own trauma and stuff because she like lost a friend along the way that scarred her in her face, and she always wants to keep on a mask because she feels ashamed because she thinks it's her fault and all that kind of stuff. And it's really, really interesting. Like the characters are well written. There are a lot of strong female characters, which I'm only realizing now. There's also like this old warrior soldier lady who I personally love. Like she just doesn't give a shit about anything. Like she doesn't care about anything at all. And she is super straightforward. She's gonna give it to you how it is. Like she does not care about your feelings. And she's an old warrior, so she's kind of rusty because she's like well into her 50s, I think. But she's really, really wise and really rough around the edges, and I freaking love her. She is so funny. And I think we get introduced to her, I think only in the second book. I don't even think she arrives in the first book yet. But basically, there's her, and there's Dragon Lady, and basically the thing is, the premise of the story is that the walls are failing, right? Like they start flickering, they start getting holes in them, and the worlds are starting to mix because they're like, what the fuck? There's like more world to the world, there's not just a wall, and what can we do? And she is basically sent by the council of everyone who's like in within the knowledge, to go to the heart of the world, um, and to find the ancient keepers of knowledge to ask about what is happening or how can we fix it or what's going on, because if we don't do something about it, the wall will collapse entirely, and then pandemonium will um will rule the whole world, because there are it's sectioned off for a reason. I'm just gonna say that much. There's a reason there's a wall. Okay, so some worlds are really primitive. Some have like a really tyrannical king, and they can't go anywhere else because they think this is the entire world, right? And he's just before death because he's really old, and they want to sacrifice him or something because they think the walls are collapsing because he has lost his touch with God, and God isn't talking to him anymore. And he knows that God isn't talking to him anymore, and he thinks that's the reason why the walls are failing, because he is failing as a king. So in order to basically get that in order, they want to sacrifice him, and he doesn't want to be sacrificed, obviously. And this is one world. And then there's like this other world where the brothel girl is living, and then there's another world where this trader lady, like she has a huge trading empire and she's really, really wealthy. And nobody likes her though because she's kind of a bitch. And she's not working in other people's interests but only in her own, which is, fair, kind of like, isn't that what everybody is doing? And there's a lot of stuff happening. There's also, I'm so sorry, like trigger warning right away, there's a horrific rape scene in one of these books where I'm like, oh my goodness, like what? Like it was very very brutal. Like it's for real trigger warning. Like it's not cool. It's not cool at all. And that kind of stuck with me honestly because it was just so crazy. Hang on, let me put on a light over here. Hey, you can see my face again. Look at that. And kinda. And basically, the book is really interesting. It stuck with me for a long time. Like I still think about these books sometimes. because it's just extremely well told. It's very complicated. There are a lot of main characters. There's a lot of stuff happening. What I really loved about the books, like if you go through all three of them, all of the stories of these characters intertwine and come together at the end, and it makes sense. Like it makes complete sense. There's no plot holes, no BS going on. It's just, it makes a lot of sense. And she stays the main character, and there are a lot of strong female characters, which I didn't realize until like well into the book because it's just written so well. Like it's not, oh, I'm gonna make a woman the main character, so I have women main characters. Because for me, of course, women main characters all the way. Go, go, go. It's fantastic. But feminist, women, whatever. But sorry, brain rot. And I'm all for women cast, but if you just cast a woman to have cast a woman, you miss the point. Okay, like you need someone who can actually act, make sense to cast her, whatever. And here, I didn't even realize the whole cast, well, not the whole cast, but like a lot of main characters are strong women with really interesting and different characters. And there are also main men characters. There's like this one lieutenant something, like he is actually a key figure. In the beginning you're like, what kind of, can't say it on video, but like what kind of a bastard is that, like um he was quite, I thought he was a villain for the longest time. I thought this was a villain, and one of the villains, because there are like a few villains and there are a few heroes. And overall, it's gray though. Like there's no, it's good versus evil. It's just like things are happening and people are working in their own interests, and then things happen in the end. And the funny thing is, I don't remember how it ends. Like it is, I remember things got really tight and there was a battle, and there was a huge plot twist like in the middle of this, like toward the end of the second book. You're like, no way, where did that come from? Like it was really well written, like it's pretty cool. And I need to read them again, honestly. It's been quite a while since I've read them, but this is just goes to show it's a really good book because it stuck with me for so long. Like this, the plots are really good. They all come together in the end. It just makes sense, like it's very well written. I loved all of the main characters. I love that back in the day, basically, you had so many well-written female characters as well. Um, Great book. Way to go, Maggie Furey. I'm gonna read the rest of her books too because this is just really good and it just stuck with me for legitimately 10 years. So I can definitely recommend them. I can't tell you too much about what happens in the book because it's a really long plot line. Like, basically, the basis is the country is partitioned into these pieces by these energy huge wall curtains. I think they call them wall curtains or curtain walls or something. And they're starting to fail. And it's her mission to find out why in the end and how to fix it, of course. And along the way she finds like the villain guy. His name is Blank. I'm not even joking. Like Lieutenant Blank or something is his name, and she meets that guy along the way, and you're like, oh no, he's gonna hurt her because he's the villain, and because he also works against the king, the tyrant king, who is dying in the end because he's already really old and stuff. And the dragon has its own personality. The dragon talks and has just as much character as any human character, which I think is really interesting. Are there elves? I don't think so. But it's been a while, so maybe I'm wrong. But I don't think so, actually. I think there are a lot of different humans and dragons, and yeah, mystical creatures are real. And the dragons are the keeper of knowledge, as in many books. Yeah, sorry about it getting dark early. It is winter. It is only 4:30 and it's dark because Germany. Yeah. So, wish you a great evening. Have a great time. Read the book. Fantastic. Can really recommend. See you next time.